Right now, somewhere in the world, a person is driving 40 minutes to work. Not because they enjoy the work or love the commute, but because at the end of the month, numbers will appear in a bank account. Those numbers will pay for food, shelter, electricity, everything necessary for survival. It's such a normal part of life that, we rarely stop to question it. But imagine explaining this to someone from 50,000 years ago. Imagine telling ancient hunter-gatherer, I spend most of my waking hours performing tasks for people I barely know, so that digital symbols can be transferred into an invisible account, allowing me to acquire resources from strangers. They'd probably just stare at you in complete confusion. And yet, if you think about it, their lives revolved around survival too. They needed food, protection, relationships, security, exactly the same things we need today. Which raises a strange question. Before money existed, how did humans get anything? How did they obtain food when they didn't have cash? How did they survive when there were no salaries? No stores, no prices, no banks, no economies. At least, not in the way we imagine them. And as strange as it sounds, answering that question might explain something surprising about modern life. Because the story of money isn't really about economics, it's about human nature. And human nature hasn't changed nearly as much as we like to believe. For a long time, people assumed they knew exactly what came before money. The story seemed obvious. First came barter. A farmer traded chickens for shoes and a fisherman traded fish for tools. Eventually, barter became inconvenient. So humans invented money. Problem solved. It's a simple story, and it's elegant. And according to many anthropologists, it's probably wrong. In fact, some researchers spent decades searching for societies that relied primarily on barter, and they found something. Something unexpected. Most people weren't walking around constantly swapping goods. Human communities operated according to entirely different rules. Rules that sound almost alien today. To understand them, we need to travel far beyond cities, far beyond agriculture, far beyond civilization itself. Imagine a small group of humans 40,000 years ago. The sun has disappeared behind distant hills. A fire crackles in the darkness and children sleep nearby. The air smells of smoke and earth. A hunter returns carrying meat. The hunt was successful, enough food to feed many people. Now imagine what happens next. Does he sell it? Does he negotiate prices? Does he demand payment? Of course not. He shares it. The meat moves through the camp. Family members receive portions. Friends receive portions. Elders receive portions. Even people who contributed nothing to the hunt receive food. At first glance, this seems irrational. Why give away something so valuable? Why not keep it? Why not store it? Why not maximize personal gain? Because ancient humans understood something modern humans often forget. Survival wasn't an individual project. It was a group project. A successful hunter today might fail tomorrow. And a healthy person today might be injured next month. No one could survive consistently alone. The greatest insurance policy ever invented wasn't money, it was other people. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer societies repeatedly observed this pattern. Food moved through social networks and resources circulated. Generosity wasn't charity, it was survival technology. Every gift created a future obligation. Every act of sharing strengthened invisible bonds. The hunter wasn't losing wealth, he was investing in relationships. And relationships were the real currency. This becomes even more fascinating when archaeologists examine ancient burial sites. Sometimes they discover objects transported hundreds of miles from their source. Shells found far inland, rare stones found across vast distances, and decorative objects exchanged between groups separated by enormous territories. But why? Without money. What motivated such exchanges? The answer appears to be trust. Long before financial networks existed, humans were building social networks. A distant tribe wasn't just a collection of strangers. It was potential safety, potential allies, potential safety support during difficult times. In a dangerous world, having friends hundreds of miles away could mean the difference between survival and extinction. So humans exchanged gifts, not because they needed immediate returns, because relationships had value. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Because if you look closely, something strange begins to emerge. Ancient humans weren't accumulating wealth. They were accumulating people. Think about that for a moment. Today, we often measure success through possessions, income, investments, property, numbers. But for most of human history, the most valuable asset wasn't something you owned. It was someone who would help you when things went wrong. This wasn't just cultural, it was biological. Deep inside the human brain, evolution was solving a very specific problem. How do you survive in a species that depends on cooperation? Neuroscientists have discovered that acts of trust, generosity, and social connection activate powerful reward systems in the brain. These emotional rewards weren't accidents, they were evolutionary incentives. Nature was, encouraging behaviors that increased group survival. The human brain became kind of a machine designed not merely to gather resources, but to maintain relationships. And once you notice this, modern life starts looking very different. Because while money transformed civilization, it didn't erase the ancient operating system underneath. It merely built new software on top of it. Think about social media. At first glance, it seems completely unrelated to hunter-gatherers, right? One involves smartphones, the other involves stone tools. Yet both revolve around the same ancient instincts: status, recognition, belonging, approval. For ancient humans, social exclusion could be fatal. Being rejected by the group wasn't emotionally painful because humans were overly sensitive. It was painful because exclusion threatened survival. Your ancestors who ignored social acceptance often disappeared from the gene pool. Your ancestors who cared deeply about belonging survived, which means you inherited their brains. The result? Millions of years later, a notification can still affect your mood. A comment can ruin your day. A compliment from a stranger can feel surprisingly important. The technology is new, but the psychology is ancient, and money follows the same pattern. Because here's the hidden truth: money solved an enormous problem. It allowed cooperation between strangers. Before money, trust depended heavily on relationships. You helped people you knew, and people helped you. But civilization expanded beyond small groups. Suddenly, humans needed ways to cooperate with complete strangers. So money became a shortcut for trust, a universal language. A token representing value, a system allowing two people with no relationship whatsoever to exchange resources. In many ways, money was one of humanity's greatest inventions. But it came with an unexpected side effect. It allowed resources to become detached from relationships. For the first time, humans could accumulate enormous wealth without necessarily strengthening social bonds. And this created a tension that still exists today, because the ancient brain continues searching for things money cannot fully provide: connection, belonging, meaning, community. You can see this tension everywhere. In wealthy societies experiencing loneliness epidemics, in people with successful careers who still feel empty, in individuals surrounded by conveniences, yet craving deeper relationships. The ancient human brain wasn't designed merely to acquire resources, it was designed to participate in communities. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer groups often notice something modern societies struggle to replicate: constant social interaction, daily cooperation, shared responsibilities, collective experiences. Life wasn't necessarily easier. Far from it. But isolation was rare. Today, many people can go days without meaningful face-to-face interaction. Something that would have been almost unimaginable throughout most of human history. And perhaps that's why the original question is more important than it first appears. What did ancient humans do before money? The answer isn't simply that they traded goods or shared resources or exchanged gifts. The deeper answer is that they depended on each other. Their economy wasn't built primarily on transactions. It was built on relationships. And despite thousands of years of technological change, that truth never disappeared. It merely became harder to see, because modern life creates an illusion. The illusion that independence is possible, that we succeed alone, that survival is an individual achievement. But look closely. Every meal depends on thousands of strangers. Every product depends on invisible networks of cooperation. Every aspect of civilization rests upon human trust. The scale has changed. The principle has not. In a strange way, we're still participating in the same system our ancestors used. The details are different. The tools are different. The complexity is unimaginable. Yet beneath it all lies the same ancient reality. Humans survive through cooperation, not isolation, which brings us back to the beginning. The person driving 40 minutes to work. The person earning numbers inside a bank account. The person participating in a global economy too vast to comprehend. It feels completely different from sitting beside a fire 40,000 years ago. And in many ways, it is. But beneath the highways, the office buildings, the smartphones, the stock markets, and the digital transactions, The same ancient brain is still there, the same brain that once depended on trust. The same brain that valued belonging, the same brain that measured wealth not only through resources, but through relationships. Money changed the world. But it didn't change us nearly as much as we think, because hidden beneath every transaction is something older than currency, older than civilization, older than history itself, a species that learned long ago that survival was never about what one person possessed. It was about what people could achieve together, and perhaps that's the strangest realization of all. When you look at your bank account, you're seeing one kind of wealth. But when ancient humans looked at their world, they saw another, a network of people, a web of trust, a living safety net stretching through relationships. Money became the dominant language of value. Yet somewhere beneath the surface, another language still exists, one written by evolution, one spoken by every human brain, a language that existed long before the first coin was minted, and one that still whispers quietly beneath modern life. The language of connection. The language that carried our species through hundreds of thousands of years. The language that made civilization possible. The language that, despite everything we've built, never truly disappeared.